call a meeting to order at 5:30. We have Rosebud Drum to do the flag song for us, and it's all yours, we appreciate it. Be sure to come back.
Good job.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. You guys are good singers.
Good luck. Good luck.
I needed that.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the respected board, thank you for allowing us to come. You know, when we allow our students and our children to come here and perform for you, not only does that give them good experience, but it also builds their confidence and self-esteem. So you are the respected leaders of our community and of our schools. So we really appreciate all of you and the things that you do. So,
Thank you.
Janet, you're already on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So you didn't need to sign up. But, Cassie, you did sign up to go into executive session. Did you request from the superintendent to go into executive session tonight?
I did not previously request. This will be my first request.
Usually, we get to request that all the time for executive session, so. Robert, you did, I know you did have one meeting, so.
We've had several. So, I mean, there's not any change in what's happening with housing, so.
Since there was no request, I would deny it this time and then come back and talk to Carol again and then,
Okay.
thank you. And since there's no one else on the public forum or board that signed up, we'll move on to item 4.1, adopt the agenda. We have a motion moved by Linda,
I'll second.
second by Michelle. All in favor? 5-0. Against. And now we have 5.1, presentation by Ms. Janet. I'd
Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I think the papers I was gonna pass out are on their way, but I'll just go ahead and start. Right now I'm hired by the tribe as a legal analyst coordinator, and I've been revising certain sections of the code. I was asked by Tribal Ed, did she email that?
We had in our packet.
It's in the packet.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it has latest version on top.
Yes, okay. So I was asked, and apparently, they have been working with school personnel, not just from Todd County, but Winter, White River, St. Francis, and it's all the truancy personnel, and the day I walked in, hi, there's my
The
backup.
rest of the team.
First day I walked in, everybody's kind of frustrated, and we don't know what to do about this truancy situation. Well, I had received a model code that was developed by several universities in Indian country, and the latest version was 2016. And in part of this juvenile code was some truancy laws. So I took it to the meeting and I said, hey, you guys look at this. I also did a lot of research on truancy laws across the United States, in bigger jurisdictions, just looking at what was out there and what was everybody doing. Because as you know, the only thing we have in our tribal law and order code is, it says failure to send your child to school. And we know that law hasn't been utilized in I don't know how long. I myself personally was a juvenile prosecutor years ago. And so I know that the court has tried in different ways, different juvenile judges have tried different ways to try to help do something about the amount of truancy that we have. So we took a look at it, and the truancy code that was in the model code is really about older students that really are like, I'm not going to school today, or I'm skipping school, or I don't care what you say, I'm not going to school. The second part to that, as we know, are parents who don't send their children to school. They either don't enroll them, for whatever various reasons, their children are not in school with them, including, and you guys have an exclusion in your law when it comes to homelessness. I also have to bring up the issue of domestic violence, because often family members that experience domestic violence, they don't want to send their children to school. They don't feel like their children are safe there, that the abuser may come and take them, because as the dynamics work, they're not necessarily calling the police, and they're not necessarily filing for custody or protection orders, because that could put them in danger. So we also wanted to recognize that in this law, and we did. So let me just kind of take you, like a little breakdown of what it is. If a student has more than, I think it's 3, isn't it? Yeah. If they have 3 unexcused absences within a single month, or 6 unexcused absences within the current year, it will trigger this truancy law. Now, the truancy law is for 12 and above, till you're 18. I mean, it's for everybody, but this particular filing a truancy petition portion of this is about those older youth. We take care of the younger youth and the parents. We still utilize the procedures within this part of the code, but we do it a little bit differently. Something else triggers, because we're talking about parents' responsibility. And it could be in some of the older kids too. I mean, it's really up to the individuals that are working with these families to understand that. So when that's triggered, the truancy personnel, whatever school they're working in, and they're already doing that. They're already going out, knocking on doors. You guys are already setting them notices for the ones that are enrolled, right? We have a lot that aren't enrolled. So what will happen is that truancy personnel will go out and talk to the parents, give them notice, and tell them that the Rosebud Sioux Tribal Law and Order Code says that your child must be in school every day, and that they've exceeded or are at the limit of these unexcused absences. And so what can we do to help you, right? You guys' personality does that. They then say we can sit down and do this voluntary plan with you. What's going on? Is your child, you know, we know what all those excuses are, right? We know, or not just excuses, but some valid reasons. The child's being bullied. Maybe they're too poor and the child doesn't have appropriate clothing. Maybe they can't wash them. You know, all these different things that may trigger what this is. So it's not, you know, it's not one singular factor probably for a lot of families. It's a whole bunch of them. So then the next step is we say, can we voluntarily make this plan with you? And they have a right to refuse. But at that time, they will be given notice that if you refuse a voluntary sitting down, doing this plan, we are gonna hold what's gonna be new, and it's a truancy board made up of different individuals, including school personnel, but also different types of individuals. Who else do we need on the board? And that's really up to tribal ed. It is gonna be their responsibility for the makeup of that board, of course, with schools' input. But what will happen is that too is a voluntary process. So we're inviting you to this truancy board meeting. There'll be different professionals there to try to assist you with whatever issues you're having and why your child isn't enrolled or they have excessive absences. If the child or the parent say, we don't want anything to do with this, that then they have like, I think, one more unexcused absence. It'll trigger.
2 after the truancy board.
After the truancy board, it's 2. That will trigger that school's truancy personnel, school personnel, working along with tribal education, will then request of the juvenile court a truancy petition. It's a legal petition. But what we want you to understand is this is not criminal. This is all kind of what they call, the legal word, I can't even remember the legal word for it, but it allows that juvenile then to be under the auspice of the juvenile court. There will be a petition that is developed along, we still have to develop this plan. What does school personnel and tribal ed believe the issue is with this child? They then submit that to the prosecutor. They have 10 days, the prosecutor does, to file a petition in court. It's all spelled out in there. It's very legal procedures, step by step. If the child then starts going to school, there's like a 60-day, if they haven't missed any, school at all within the next 60 days, that this petition will automatically be dismissed, because then they've seen a turnaround. But it doesn't matter, because when it comes to the end, the court will order them to go to the truancy court. They'll order them to work with, and whatever else the child may need. Do they need counseling? Do they need treatment? Do they need, some kind of psychiatric assessment? What other assistance does this family need and this child need in order to be successful? And that could be alternative types of education. I know, we talked a lot about homeschooling, and the way it's not really regulated, people come in and say, I'm just gonna homeschool my kid, but in the law, tribal ed will have the regulatory authority to monitor homeschooling, so that they can ensure that this child is still doing what they need to do. If they're walking in the home, or the kids aren't coming in for the testing as it's required by the school district, tribal ed then can trigger this process too, by filing petitions saying this child is not really being homeschooled. So whatever those alternatives are. With the school, certainly having input into what is happening to that child and the family, and what we can do to make them most successful. In the end, a child can be held in contempt. I mean, there's other things that can happen dispositionally to that child. And to the parents. So when we're talking about 11 and under, is kind of tricky for us, because it was failure to send your child to school, but it also is seen across jurisdiction as parental neglect. And we really want to be careful with that, because we don't want, some of our concerns are the central registry. So the state of South Dakota holds the central registry, and if you are charged with any kind of neglect or abuse, you go on that central registry, and let me tell you, you have a hard time ever getting off that list. That means if you ever have to care for another child, or be in a position to care for a child, with the state of South Dakota watching you, they will automatically tell you no. And we really don't want to charge parents with neglect in a truancy situation. So, and we thought about that, so what happens when school personnel, and it is a neglect situation, or a truly a neglect situation, or we talked about those two families living next to each other. The one maybe where the family has a lot of drug addiction, alcohol use, and that's why that child. And the next door neighbor is because of poverty. That's why that child's not being successful, not going to school. It's not the same situation. But what we will find, and what your personnel has already found, that when they go out to these homes, and certainly tribal ed knows that too, there are situations that trigger those mandatory reporting laws that we have on the books. So we don't necessarily want to trigger a neglect charge, but we want to have it there in case we do need it for truancy issues. So the whole way through, we really try, when we first started the meetings, they were like, yeah, lock them up, charge them, put all these parents to go to jail. And I'm like, so whoa. But it's that level of frustration that everybody, every single school, certainly you guys feel it, and we wanted to approach it in a way. So this particular model is being used across the United States. And just to let you know, some supporting legislation that I am writing along with this is, we are going to make it allowable for police officers to pick up children in school hours, when school is in session. If they are not with somebody they are supposed to be with, they're under 18 years old, officers can pick up that child and take them to the school they're supposed to be. If they take them to that school and they are not enrolled, then they will cite that parent. The parent must then go in front of a magistrate and explain why their child is not enrolled in school. So it's allowing, so I know cops aren't gonna do this all the time, but in discussions with them, I said, even if at the beginning of the school year, you guys did some community sweeps, sit out here watching all those kids come off the buses, walking the other way, walking the streets, and you did some sweeps in the community, what you're gonna see is not just kids actually saying, well, maybe we better stay off the streets. Therefore, also, I think it's gonna add to lessening crime in our communities. Because they'll know that the cops will be out there if they're not 18 and they're not in school and they don't have a verifiable way of being out there. Now, there are some exceptions. Has the child been emancipated? Is the child being homeschooled? Are they out for legitimate reasons? You know what I mean? All of those things are thought about in this law and written into this law. So that we're just not targeting kids on the streets, and parents aren't just saying, hey, everybody, your community members, hey, you're just picking up our kids. And if they cannot find a guardian though, they will be taken to the JDC. And part of the problem with our teenagers though is, like when I was at White Buffalo Cap, we did a 5 community knock on your door asking questions. And we asked the head of households how many children they had, and how many of those children that were living with them were living with parents or with grandparents. And what we found out, that in those 5 communities, 50% of the boys and girls between the ages of 9 and 18, 50% were not living with their parents or grandparents. The homelessness, the underground, couch surfing, maybe friends or aunts take it. I mean, I did too. I mean, when my kids went to school here many years ago, when this guy was in high school a long time ago, I took in kids. I didn't necessarily have guardianship. I had some kids that lived with me for years. I never had custody of. Parents would sign them up for school. They would live with me. You know, so there's a lot of situations out there too. But I think it will help us. Brian's not here tonight, but you know, he's the data guy. And so we talk a lot about keeping the data here. When we start this process, how important that data is to inform. And the other thing I want to let you guys know is that we're really looking at how successful this will be with that data. Because if things aren't, then we need to change it. We've waited, I mean, that code was written in the 1980s, and it has never been changed. And so we've waited a real long time for some change to happen, and we're really excited about that. I don't know, and I was gonna present tonight, but I didn't have an opportunity to get the okay. So tribal education has also rewritten their code, and I don't know if you guys have heard anything about it, but it's really to strengthen their regulatory responsibilities, including when it comes to truancy and attendance, and really taking a step up in what they're doing. That code also hasn't been updated in a really long time. And it is almost done. That actually was written, I'm coming on the back end, I'm working on that, but I'm coming on the back end. Melody, God, I can't remember her last name, she works for NARF. What?
McCoy.
Melody McCoy, she is one of the experts in the country. She's an attorney that works for NARF. She helped develop the first education code the tribe ever had. But she is an absolute expert in this area across the country. Excellent attorney. And so her and another lady are the ones that kind of developed it. And on the other side, I'm developing like a resource guide for practitioners, policies for tribal ed, to help support that educational code. That'll be coming up. But this truancy law, and what the handout we have tonight, although you guys may have some copies, some of them are updated a little bit because I have actually 3 different pieces. So I have Title III, Chapter 6, which is the actual law that says all children, the compulsory school attendance, and then I have to align it with, because I'm making several different changes in the code, including the criminal code. And so our criminal code has also, that's where the failure to send your child to school is. We're actually repealing that and replacing it with some of the language in here, but also some considerations for police officers and prosecutors to look at before they start charging parents with a Class B crime. The history of that child, the history of their truancy. I mean, is there just something going on this year? And that necessarily hasn't been the story of that family. So, and then the other part to that is that they have been working for almost 3 years on the children's code. Seechong Child and Family has really led that, including with attorneys from Casey Family. They are almost complete because what they're looking at is taking over child protection services for the tribe. So they received funding to do that, to do their plan, it was accepted, the code is almost complete. So I have to align these three different, the truancy code, which is in the children's code, the adult code, so it's like trying to fit all these pieces together, but making sure that we're consistent throughout so that we're not confusing anybody and making sure we're doing what's best for children and families without necessarily making it a criminal type of venture. We really want it to be supportive. And so that's the whole story behind having a truancy board and having the follow-up and actually sitting down and doing a plan with families. Because, you know, even though we think about everybody in our community should know what resources we have in our community, that is not necessarily true. You know, I ran a shelter for almost 6 years, and there would be women that came in there with children that didn't know they could apply for WIC and actually get it. So yes, it's shocking, isn't it? I see your face, Phyllis, but this is what I'm talking about. Parents don't necessarily know that there are resources out there that are available to them. And really having an informative group such as the Truancy Board to sit down and really help them through what is the plan, what resources are out there for you, to really support their ongoing efforts to try to live, you know, their best lives, and for the children also. I think it's very fair. It models some of, you know, California kind of has the same type of laws. Other jurisdictions do. They really do not make it a criminal, even for the older children, for truancy. They don't make it a criminal matter. They really move towards this type of law that we're presenting today. So I don't know if you guys wanna go ahead and pass out those new
Yeah.
ones.
So, is it okay, the one I sent you, Carol, I know she gave you guys all a copy, but Janet updated, so it's always being revised. So I'll pass this out right now. This
It's
is the
always in
most-
revision, and actually today I just revised,
Yeah, one of each.
some aspects for it.
She's
Go ahead,
got
we
one
can.
there.
This is the one that you had me add, you said you wanted to.
Okay. So I think one of the most important parts of this is the parental notice. You know, and it's written into the law, that families will be notified about this, that we cannot take any action without following these, preemptive steps first, and that they're notified that meeting with truancy personnel is voluntary. Meeting with the truancy board is voluntary at this point, but if they refuse on both levels, that triggers tribal ed to be able to make the move. And so we've developed forms around that. Of course, confidentiality forms, we've triggered where parents will write that they've been given notice, have a signature that they've been given notice about, you know, and the children about all the different things that may happen. And actually, she's the one that's kind of been developing, Kara's been the one that's been developing these checklists and forms, and we didn't just make this up, we sat down with truancy personnel from all the different schools and talked about what do we need to support this new truancy law to make it easy for the schools, for truancy personnel, and certainly for tribal ed, to proceed in a really good way. Because what's gonna happen is, those attendance records, they're gonna be needed in court, okay? And just to let you know, when that truancy petition is filed, you know, whoever's keeping the truancy, who's keeping the attendance in your schools, you know, you cannot produce a record without that record keeper being present to do that. So, staff being prepared to be subpoenaed too. If it comes to if someone is actually, because when that truancy petition is filed, that then triggers representation for the child or for the parents. So they will have attorneys representing them if they are saying, this is not true, or, trying to fight it, in court. They have a right to do that. And so if it comes to an adjudicatory hearing, they will, have a hearing and they do need witnesses. So that's a possibility, that will happen. But just so your staff would be, and we're, supporting this with educating schools, educating school personnel, all of that in order to get this off the ground and running. So I know that's a lot of talk, but there's a lot of reading that really we'd like you to do. And this is just an introduction to what we've been working on, okay? So really take your time and read this. And if there's a portion that you don't understand, I'll make sure you get my email. You can just tap an email to me and say, Shannon, we don't understand necessarily what this means, or how this is working, or maybe you have a better idea, or maybe you can change this, and we're open to that because, but let me tell you, we've been working on this for months. And these ladies have just done an awesome job, also including you guys' school district personnel hanging in there. We've tried to meet every Thursday. We haven't always been successful, but we meet a couple times a month. I'm just glad to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel with this project, just because I know how much it's gonna mean, and as a teacher, and certainly as a mother, it is not always easy to maneuver your way through systems, and I think this is just a really great process that will just support families and children. So, you want to say something, Sharon?
Thank you, everybody, for letting us do this presentation. It's our first step here. We are one of our largest schools on the reservation, so, and also the Brian and Wayne and, all, I was gonna say Muffy. They've all been very diligent, and, Ms. Boyd, she's like dual, she represents, school board member in St. Francis Indian School, so like Janet said, we've been working on this for a long time and had a lot of input, and, one of the things that I wanna say is that I am so grateful that Janet said, yes, I'll help you. So if it wasn't, for her time and commitment to putting this together with us, working with us, I don't think it really would have happened. The other thing is, before, there was no clear path. Now, this creates that. So that's what I'm really excited about it. And introduce yourself.
I'm Tiara Axtell. I work alongside Sherry with the Truancy Intervention Program for Tribal Ed. These forms, the ones that I passed out, these ones, they're just rough drafts. Kind of like Janet said, we want to get it by the time that the Truancy Board is ready to refer someone to the prosecutor. We want to have everything just ready to go. So from the school's part, our point, just hand it to him and he has everything he needs as far as proof. But these are just rough drafts for now.
So we, just sitting down with everybody and saying, hey, what would we need, and, what are those hidden corners, and, making sure that parents and children have their rights, too, because we just don't want to railroad. Like I said, there's all kinds of situations, and that's why I like this, because I think it's a really thought out process, and not something that's just turning into some kind of criminal matter that will be on a child's record, or certainly not triggering neglect unless it really needs to be against a parent. Because we know, the difficulties and the barriers every day, especially when we've got teenagers. I remember teaching at Todd County and someone telling me, and I lived in student housing, someone called me and telling me, oh, there's a whole bunch of kids cutting class at your house over there. Sure enough, they were in my basement, doing things they weren't supposed to be doing. So I understand all of those issues, and so I really was privileged to assist with this, cause I am passionate about this also, so. Anybody have any questions?
I always have a question. I heard Karen say, you want it to be ready to go. So do you anticipate that it will be, the whole process will be ready to go by like, sometime next fall?
Oh, yeah, we'll be done.
So other forms and then, I mean, that was one of the things that I liked, because all of the schools, it wasn't just, us here at Todd County, or us at St. Francis, but there was a winter there, there was white, there was orange, and everybody was working together, and even through these meetings, people from winter was calling about, do you have this student, do you have that student, White River, just, all the team building. I mean, it was just through the work of this truancy board, because we all want to participate. So once this is ready to go, then all schools will have to go back and read it and
So, and the process will be, we already did the public hearing on it, so for the tribe, we're required to do a public hearing. We've already done that procedure. It will go to tribal ed committee.
Child and Family Services,
Oh, yeah, first we have to go see, we haven't met with Sichonga Child and Family just to make sure we're aligning. Although I don't think, and in my discussions, I mean, the biggest, mover in that group has been Judge Balandra, 3 stars, she's really informed the, process for the children's code. And so Title III, Chapter 7 and Title III, Chapter 6 are all part of the children's code. So these will be in addition in there. But going to them and making sure that all the people that have been working on that we're in agreement with this. We have set it out several times, we just have had a problem getting to one of their meetings. So, and I don't see it being an issue, I don't.
I spoke to him about that one, and I spoke to him about it, and since it's not really a criminal thing, it'll try it, and then, we're almost done with that.
Yeah, so they're at the end part of that, we just wanna make sure we have their buy-in too. Then we'll go to Tribal Education Committee, and then we'll go to council. Once council passes it, it has to be published for 10 days. After that 10th day of publication, it then becomes law. So, yeah, and I don't see that, being an issue very far down the road. I mean, really, this is primarily drafted. I've sent off some of these pieces again today to be reviewed by other attorneys. But I don't see too many problems with it at this point. If it is, it's just a word or two. It's not a major draft. It's just insertion or deletion of, some language if that need be. But, yeah, like I said, we're just really excited about, this process moving forward. Exciting, people. It's a big change.
Yeah, I really like that there are several layers of intervention and it's just not punitive. So I think that's great and that we're giving, gonna provide some resources for families.
Well, and I think it shows that we care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just someplace you send your kids, that, people are actually asking, what's going on? And how can I assist you with that? And when you have that kind of involvement with the rest of the community too, getting involved, even for those parents that are really reluctant and may not trust systems necessarily, I think it really will change the dynamic about how we work around our children. And it's also gonna be some hard lessons, guys, because it might unearth things that maybe you might not necessarily wanna hear. But that's why we talked to Brian about really collecting data on this, that it's important, for us to take a look at those things so we can systematically make the kinds of changes that we can make. I mean, there's some things we can't do anything about. We won't be able to change those family dynamics necessarily, or maybe even some of the school, I think you could change school dynamics, but it may highlight some of that. You know what I mean? What if it's one school that you're seeing where truancy or parents aren't trusting their children at that school, you know, and so you guys have to be able to take a look at that, you know, and really try to change maybe some of the climate. Not that I'm, you know, I mean, it's gonna unearth things that may not necessarily make people happy. And so I hope you guys will be dedicated to that process. And if that's true, the way for the community to truly trust is also to respond in a way that is best for the children and families. So just, you know, heads up there, you know, that's why data collection is so important, so that we can really take a look at what is going on with these families. Is there a trend? I mean, you know, what is really happening? So that, and we did talk about school personnel and tribal ed being overwhelmed. So in the beginning, when we first start this process, even though we're gonna be stepping in pretty much headstrong, we are gonna target where we see continual issues, where children have been not in school for years, and that personnel do know about that. We know it's gonna be overwhelming at first. That's the other thing. So everybody's gonna kind of be taxed, because we know what the data is for truancy. I mean, it's huge. So we have to be able to, as a system, ease into it, take the families that are the neediest, prioritize those that we're seeing, that have the highest truancy levels, so that we can address their needs first. And it'll be a learning experience for all of us. So hopefully, what I would like to see is for there to be a continual conversation with the school board, that tribal ed, I mean, you know, after I'm done writing, I kind of, besides giving some support, I'm stepping back. You know, you got leadership, great leadership in this room, and I hope that there's a continual conversation. So whether that's on a quarterly basis, biannual basis, I think at first it should be quarterly because it's something new. And then after that, you know, once it gets into the process, and because otherwise we forget that it's out there and that this could be just a wonderful tool to really support families. So I hope that will happen.
Any more questions?
I'll send out, get everybody's email address, the school board. I have like the principals and superintendent, but to give you Janet's email, that way if you wanna, you know, send a question or
Suggestions, whatever.
cause it's a lot to process right now, and
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
Yeah.
We've been
yeah,
in it for a while, so.
it's exciting.
So thank you for letting us be here tonight.
Thank you.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
Always with a new tool, you gotta figure out how to use it, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, okay, Thank you. Good to see you. Do you want the copy of the truancy, or do you have one? Okay. Thank you, it's good to see you. Keep up the good work out there.
We do have one addition to add, EDOC trip to action items.
We're gonna put it in.
Yeah, we can, just have it.
Action item, which one do you want?
Action items.
Okay, so let's go 7-4.
Hida is on.
Alright,
Welcome, Hida.
thank you for this. I kind of, got, I thought tonight was just for the Carlisle trip, so I wasn't fully prepared, but I got a packet together for everybody. Before I go any further, I have some staff with me, so if you guys wanna introduce yourselves while I pass this out.
Hi, my name is Valeria Wicker, and I teach middle school reading and writing.
Hamitakiapi naha ihai pantewa shinape chuzapi extraordinary machiapi. Hello, my name is Lydia Yellowhawk, and I shake all your hands with open to my heart. I'm a middle school social studies and science teacher at Hida.
And I think I was her teacher when I was at Hida. Her sister. A few years back. And everybody knows about it. Welcome.
So what we did at the end of last year was we had a lot of things that we knew we needed to work on. And so we started strategizing, and we developed a draft strategic plan. And these are some of the goals that came out of that. And this was a all staff effort. And we also pulled in parents for this process. So communication, enhanced parent involvement, lack of resources, increased maps, I kind of threw that one in there myself. Indigenized curriculum, and being good relatives. So like I said, these are the goals that we're working on this year. I know it's a lot, but I think we can do it. Our attendance, if you look at that second page in the back, for some reason it was not working for me, Carol, but I just entered anyway. So this is our attendance right now. As you all know, we do not have a kindergarten teacher, and I have subs in there, so there's kind of some inconsistency with staff in there. So we have like a manual, no one really has access to Infinite Campus in there, so that's why that's not marked in there. But we do have manual attendance for them. Our attendance has been pretty good, actually. I have noticed a lot of office referrals. I was hoping to see a lot more positive referrals than behavior referrals, but that wasn't the case. Maybe it will change this next quarter. But right now, this is what the data shows on here. Any questions about that part?
Very good attendance.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yes. We have done we've actually done a lot more parent engagement. But formally, we've had the welcome back cookout, and then we had this huge culture day that we had planned, and I'm super proud of how that turned out, even though it was hot. When it comes to the culture, there's really no time, it happens, when it's supposed to happen. And it was a beautiful day. It was very hot that day, but we had some families show up for that. We had some families come in and provide some teachings for our relatives out to Hida, so that was very nice. We have a lot planned between now and December, and I listed some of those for you there. We have needs. I'm really glad that Kevin is here. Of course, kindergarten teacher, we have a huge kindergarten class, and I'm really glad that Carol came out and saw the space that we have to work with.
It was so funny because their carpet is the alphabet, and she's like, I don't even think there's enough squares for all of them. Yeah, we have 20, I think it's 25 now, kindergarten students. And we don't have a teacher. Today she's willing to do it, so I gave her all of the information on what to do. She does need housing though, so I'm really hopeful that that works out. This individual is from Parmalee, so that makes it even more good for us. So I'm really hoping that works. I don't know, I wanted to list accomplishments. Like I said, I ran out of time. And I have some teachers here, and some staff, Bob, if you guys want to talk about any accomplishment that you may have seen individually or with your class as a whole. Well, with the middle school, we're starting to have PLCs more regularly, and part of that is every week to pick a student of the week, and so it has opened us up to having more positive interactions with parents when we notify them that their child was selected as student of the week, and to celebrate the virtues that they shine forth and the hard work that they do. And so I've seen students, maybe not as a result of student of the week, but I think it also kind of changes how we see things too. You see students trying new things and taking risks and doing things that they haven't done before.
Well, I guess Larry and I started the Lakota Language Bowl team today, and it was really successful. I think we had 11 students, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of
12.
them really are
Yeah.
interested in going to LA this year.
Bob, you have anything?
No. Well, some of the teachers texted me. Leela Biggest is our 4th grade. She actually teaches ELA for 4th and 5th. She said she's sees a lot of perseverance in getting to work and completing work, even when it's challenging as a whole. Miss Gray says, I see myself at home here. And June Outlooks Back says, every day we have a student of the day where the students exemplify who they are, being a good relative as well as Wolakota. So those are some of the accomplishments. We also have a lot planned with the remaining funds of the NAASG. We have, our focus is to indigenize as best and as much as we can between now and December 18th. And by indigenizing, we want to truly indigenize. We want to be able to use our existing curriculums and indigenize those. And so we have some consultants ready to help us with that process. We have, let me see here. We have Indigenous Generations Ways. They're based out by Interior. So she's gonna help our teachers with the math and science, indigenizing them. We have a medicine man who has been working with me throughout this summer. He's developing his curriculum, and then he's gonna be providing embedded support for our teachers on indigenizing ELA and social studies. We're also gonna be incorporating a lot of Lakota arts and crafts into art without trying to take away from what the curriculum is that she has. We brought on a lacrosse consultant, so this person is going to train our PE teachers, so they'll be incorporating that. And I'm super proud of our drum class. What I noticed last year and the year before too was that I was getting a lot of office referrals from music. And when it came down to it, a lot of the older students they don't find it relevant, singing the songs. And so last year I was very grateful to Dr. Bordeaux that he allowed us to move forward with indigenizing music by offering a drum class. And so we do that. We have a lot of our older boys who are in that class. This year, we are offering We Chocolata for the girls. So we have Sissy Goodhouse and Team Solo White, who are the teachers for that. So I'm super proud of those. I think, yeah, we have some trauma-informed training coming up for the staff, as well as just culture in general. We're bringing in Ethylene Ironclad 2 dogs to provide that training for the staff. We have this trip that we have our fingers crossed, hoping it gets past this body. We have ribbon skirt making, drum making that we're gonna offer as a parent engagement event, Buffalo Harvest again, career exploration and leadership conferences, fairs, hoping we're to do one there at HEDA, and bring in all the older bulldogs. So I'm excited about that. We have a lot of cultural experiential learning trips that we're wanting to try to sneak in before December, but I'm not sure how that's going to work out. And our recovery room, our sacred spaces in the classrooms, and our general one in on campus. So those are what we have planned.
I think too the classrooms, a lot of the classrooms have been like revamped this year, and I think that might help with the attendance.
Yeah,
because it's just a really warm and welcoming place to come. Yeah.
What do you mean by revamped?
Like for instance, I had a GoFundMe for my classroom this summer, and so I have like some traditional school seating, and then I also have like a couch and a cafe table and some lighting and you know, fun colors in there. And
a lot of the teachers are they have flex seating in their classroom, and Carol was able to see that in one of our fifth grade classrooms. So it's just different types of seating. Just makes it easier, you know, for kids wherever they're at most comfortable learning, and so that's what she's talking about. And then her neighbor too, his room is, I mean, it's colorful, it's bright, it's inviting. I was hoping to bring some MAPS data for you all, but we are finishing up. We had, 11 transfers last week, and so we're finishing up MAPS testing tomorrow actually, so.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The cameras in classrooms and on campus, I know there used to be some, they're just not there anymore.
Can I answer that one?
Yeah.
The cameras are still in place. After it flooded, they shut them down. We have actually 6 Meraki cameras that we can put out there, and we just have to put them into place. And they're temporary cameras, so it's not gonna be a permanent thing. We can use them when we get the new school, or we can use them somewhere else. But it's just IT having the time to come out and put them in.
That server's shot down in the basement.
I think the last time I knew it was still working, but I'm not positive. The cameras we have now will go to the servers in the classrooms themselves, so we can go straight to them.
Any board members have any questions, comments, for Rita? Good job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, your attendance speaks volumes, as to the kind of programming and what you're doing with kids out there, so.
We have some who, the attendance has just been, and historically, truancy has been a part of their everyday life, and so I'm really glad that, they're revamping their codes, but in the meantime, Sherry has been very helpful with us, and our counselor too.
Thank you. Mr. Smalley here.
Good evening. I have a few things that I'm gonna pass out here real quick. At the beginning of the year, the administration had a meeting, and we basically went over a few things that we see here. The very top page is a poster that we're put in all the classrooms in the schools. And it's basically a cheat sheet for the protocol, Alice protocol. And I'm actually happy with where we're going with everything right now. It's like I said, it's a poster for a cheat sheet for the safety protocol for Alice. Tier 1, which all the schools should be in, is, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a regular school day. All the exterior doors will be locked and a single point of entry. The interior doors will be unlocked so that the kids can move back and forth from class to class. This, in my opinion, is a really big leap and bounds from what we've been doing, because we've had individuals coming in back doors, coming in side doors. Now we can regulate who's coming into the school, and actually control what's going on a lot more. Secure status. Exterior doors and interior doors will be locked, restrict monitoring movement inside and outside, which the schools with security guards will actually escort. If somebody comes in and says, I want to take my child out, they can escort them to the office. In smaller schools, all you do is you just let them know that, hey, so-and-so's coming, which is probably right down the hall, and we can monitor any movement within the school. They may still transition, all staff monitor transitions. If there's a movement from class to class, staff goes in the hallways, they watch the kids. Exterior doors are still locked. It's just a regular day, but we're just monitoring, being more vigilant. And then we go into the safety. Tier 3 is the lockdown, which is the Alice protocol. The acronym is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. One of the things that I'm doing right now is basically trying to play catch up. The Alice protocol itself is a one day class, but we kind of revised it. We dropped it down to an hour and a half. So I've been going to school, getting the key groups of people and going over the Alice protocol with them. So we have an emergency team or a team, somebody who can discuss the protocol with all the teachers, staff, everybody involved. There are 3 Alice instructors in our district, which I would actually like to get more. Barry Bailey, Patrick Bordeaux, and myself. If we could get more instructors, we would have somebody close by that would be able to have the expertise to give an impromptu class if need be. The Alice class, again, I said is an 8-hour class, and we're squeezing it down to an hour and a half. Hopefully next year we'll be able to schedule a day and have enough instructors to get the whole staff trained before the school year starts. The other training that we're working on is CPI. There's only 3 instructors in the district for that. Myself, Barry Bailey, and Shelby. And we're doing wherever we can squeeze training in, we're squeezing training in. If next year we're able to, I'd like to have all staff trained. There's actually 2 classes for that, 2 different ones. One is a hands-on class where you learn how to control somebody without hurting them. The other one is basically de-escalation by seeing the situation, trying to get in there before it happens. Maybe removing the individual that has an issue and fixing it before it gets out of hand. Fire drills and tornadoes. The administrators all sent me their information. We have a tentative fire drills and tornadoes. If they're unable to do it, we'll go ahead and cancel it out and reschedule and get it taken care of. Any BIA building, fire drills have to be done monthly. Other than that, it's quarterly. And then tornado drills, we have to do 2 per year. And we're trying to squeeze in an active shooter class or a lockdown drill itself. What I would rather do is I would rather do it with the staff so that we can find any problems and fix them and have time to talk to the kids, and because I don't want to scare anybody, but I do know we need to have this information taken out there and put out there. The training I went to last year, one of the big things is they had discussed was the cost of everything that we're doing. It doesn't cost much if we just do the training. If we can do more training, it's gonna help us in the long run. I've been working on talking with KT and talking with Chad about camera systems, and we're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan to try and switch out the cameras, because a lot of our cameras are obsolete. They won't even repair them now. So we can use what we have as we move and just recycle and just continue on.
Which schools are you talking about are they having the worst problems besides the high school?
There are some schools that have no camera systems. And, you know, I would rather go into executive session and discuss that because of the confidentiality issue with that. But as the schools are like Oak Creek and He Dog, we're gonna pull cameras. We're gonna start putting them into the other the schools. Plus, we're gonna use some of them cameras to subsidize the ones that we have in place, so we can better control what's going on.
Okay, before you go any farther, get the problem solved at the high school at the back door yet? The back gate?
I need to discuss that again with the administration. With the level 1 or the tier 1, one of the things that we need to implement is we need to lock that back gate. We need to lock the back door. Every teacher, every staff member has a key card, and there's a key reader. We need to start utilizing the key readers to get back and forth. We have enough guards there to cover all these areas, so it's just sitting down and discussing it and coming into an agreement and taking care of it. So we're working on that.
Okay. What about the parking area, Chad? Is it done? Parking lot at the elementary?
Yeah, they were painting it the other day instead of.
Are you able to come up with a plan? Now, 'cause parents are still calling me about that parking picking up.
That's because the staff hadn't moved over to that new area.
Well, I haven't seen, they just, I think did they get it painted? I mean, that was supposed to be done here last week, so I need to check. I don't know if it's done
I
yet.
don't know if it's done.
But ultimately, what we need to do after that is have a meeting together and discuss what opportunities we have now by moving all the staff parking over there with that current existing parking lot. What kind of markings we can put into place, and, you know, so I think that's gonna be a conversation that needs to be had very soon.
Yeah, and at the same time, right now, I'm directing traffic on one part. We have the administrators down on the bottom, and when they can, the SRO is there, and he's down, and it is slow, you know, and we're working on it, you know, and it's starting to get actually a lot smoother than it was at the beginning. People are starting to realize stay to the right, you know. go ahead and go on through, they just have to be patient.
I heard it was a lot better.
It's better than it was last year, when I was there.
The reason I'm asking is we had a parent come in and complain about that a couple of meetings ago, that's why I wanted to ask where we're at with that.
Yeah, I think we just need to finalize and get the painting done. I know
Once
we
can
need
move
to.
teachers out, I think we need to have the conversation on what we can do, so, okay, thank you.
I still need to, I'm waiting for an answer from, Kara Walkling and Robert Oliver. At one point last year, we had our emergency meetings, to do a tabletop so that we can do our crisis management plan and integrate it into what the ambulance service is gonna do, what law enforcement's gonna do. In the past 3 years, we really haven't had individuals coming in to help us get this together, so that eventually we can have a countywide, plan or a drill. But it's in the works, they just need to get everybody together. I'm trying to think what else we need. We're trying to get more radios, or we've ordered more radios. This is gonna help us, especially in Spring Creek area, the outlying schools where we have different classrooms and different buildings. Hedog's an example. Once we get the radios in there, we can do a basic, radio, how to talk on the radio, what we need to do. The other thing we needed to implement, which we worked on prior to this, was the electronic surveillance, policy. We had, actually, I believe the lawyer already read it, but it never went anywhere after that. The policy itself is something that we need for liability purposes for us. So I believe the superintendent's gonna bring that forward, forward to you guys, and you guys can review it, and we can go on from there. We had a state safety inspection last week. I escorted the lady throughout the district. We're gonna come up with a plan and, how we can fix it. And it may be a long-term plan, it may be a short-term plan. They just need something in writing from us within 30 days, and we'll go from there.
You have a report for us to kind of look at?
That was given to, the maintenance and bus.
Is that the fire marshal?
Yeah. She did, actually did 2 different, safety tests, or inspections. One was the kitchen and one was the fire. Are there any questions?
Who keeps the logs of the fire drills and the tornado drills?
That would be me. They send it to me, and we have folders. We're gonna put everything in folders. We also have folders for the training, so we'll know each school has, who has CPI, who has Alice protocol. Hopefully next year, we have them all.
So you have one in each school that's set up to do the drills for you, or do you go out and do them yourself? The fire drills and tornado drills?
The administrators themselves do the drills, and then they let me know if they completed it or not.
Okay.
The first of the month, of next month, I will be going to the elementary, Rosebud, and conducting training, plus I'll be there for their lockdown drill, their lockdown active shooter drill, and the high school.
Busy man.
Answer would say he's gonna be popular.
I have one comment, question perhaps. In regards to all of the shootings nationwide, you know, it seems like they're on the upside. This is dated 2008, is there an?
We just got that one on the Alice Protocol, website.
Mhm.
So we've been using this as,
Guide?
a guide, yeah. You know, they can review this, but each individual school has their own crisis plan. So, an example, Todd County High School will have different rally points than what Klein will have, what Lakeview will have. And, it's actually a living document. We can change it at any time, if this isn't working, or even if inclement weather is involved, we can change. You know, we can add on to it, or we can subtract, or whatever we need to do to keep the kids safe.
E-Dog is a tough place for that to cover.
Yes, it is. It is. And, you know, an example is the elementary school. As far as the plan, it says evacuate. Initially, I would rather that they bunker in, because we have such little ones, we have so many there.
So many buildings.
So that's why we sit there and we, you know, the administrators themselves will look it over. With my training and experience, I'll give recommendations. We just need to come to agreement what we're gonna do. And there's always what ifs, but we need the base first. So we need to build from the base and then go from there.
On that note, Chad, have we moved on the plan out there for?
Absolutely, it's in our court now. The EA study is complete. We got that approximately 2 weeks ago, not close to 3. So process-wise, I think we'll go ahead and do an RFP here, probably by the end of this month for architect services. I think we talked about that once previously up here. Well, that'd be my recommendation as of now. But we would set up a committee and actually interview some people coming in and try to do those things. So the ultimate goal would be that we'd be going out to bid next spring.
Good.
So that's exciting news.
He's just running.
I know.
I'll see you when I see it.
Yeah.
It's in our court now. It's in our court.
Good. Good to hear.
And if y'all have any suggestions, just email me any questions. I'll answer the best I can.
How are we on the positions? Are you all full, or you still need a lot more?
I have one position that's open right now, and that would be the high school. So I'll talk to Mr. Perner, and we'll move forward with that, and we'll do interviews and go through that process.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening.
Consent.
Consent, need a motion for 7.01. Moved by Shelley,
A second.
second by Linda. All in favor?
Yes.
I'll say yes.
Okay.
Let's just follow these right here. Something individual and just do it. Keep them into-
Ms. Reedy,
As opposed to be
for your trip.
Oh, okay.
That was 74.
Oh.
Calendar committee.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You over there?
Yeah.
Consent agenda, 7.1, so that was Shelley and Linda then? Yes. Okay. 7.2, calendar committee. Recommendations? Anybody's here? Shelley?
And Tiana is agreed to be on that too, so.
Need a motion for Shelley and Tiana?
I'll move.
Moved by Linda,
I'll second.
by Michelle. All in favor?
Yes.
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 5, did you vote Shelley?
Yeah.
Seven three, negotiations and ESP. Volunteers for 2 board members for, TCA and 2 board members for ESP.
I have no time.
I'll do it again.
Which one?
Personnel.
I'll try ESP.
I'll throw my name to Tim, myself. Need a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Shelley. Second. Tim. Vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. True. Now, get up. We need a motion? Cause that other motion was for consent, right? So we need a motion for heat up. I'll move. Second by,
Then we move.
yes. For what?
To add?
Yeah, because that, the other one, yeah.
The way I've got it written, just Vicky, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're looking for, but approval of out-of-state trip for EDOG elementary students to Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
So you wanna make a motion, so that's presented.
Are we motion to add or motion
It's the trip, isn't it? Didn't we add it already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to make a motion, so it's time to.
So you're just asking to go on the trip? Everything else is paid for?
Everything's paid for under the grant. The state's approved it. We just need your guys' blessing.
Okay, you have my blessing. I move to approve.
I'll second. Moved by Linda, second by Michelle.
We're good.
All in favor?
Yes.
Five, zero, hold zero.
Thank you, we had this big presentation prepared, but. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Yes, interesting trip.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. I know.
Wait for your speech.
Well, we're looking at the 27th of October, so, but I don't know, okay.
Well, as long as the travel, you know, the airplane and that one place shows me.
Okay, thank you.
Eight one.
I'll move.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
5-0. Oh,
Yes.
yes.
So I put together a little bit of information for you today. The end of the quarter is already a week from Friday, October 25th, so it's going fast. Don't forget that October 29th is the ASBSD regional meeting here. It'll be at the high school library. And make sure that we know you're coming, or Wayne does, so Wade does, the culinary class is catering the meal for us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting, and they're super excited for that.
What's the time on that?
It's 5:30 to 6, I don't remember, I was thinking 6, but, yeah. I think we'll have one more board meeting before, right?
Yeah.
So, we can confirm that.
That day before.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I was thinking maybe supper at 5:30 and the meeting starts at 6. But, teacher housing is gonna be blocked off again this year for Halloween, but, the elementary school is initiating a trunk or treat, and they're trying to get teacher housing, people to participate over there, so the traffic goes that way, and it's all in one place. So they're encouraging people to participate in the trunk or treat, so that should be fun.
Along with that, Redco and Kohala are actually doing a trunk or treat on Main Street as well.
Cool.
They're doing painting and everything else in the park, right?
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
So are these all at the same night? What night?
It's
Yeah.
Halloween.
The 31st, yeah.
Different activities all
Yeah.
over.
So then we have in-service the next day, and there's just different activities going on at different buildings. And as you heard, Kevin's gonna do some training that day, so it's kind of a nice day for the individual schools to be able to plan for their own buildings and their needs. Due to the truancy code, I thought, I'm probably always gonna talk about attendance, but I had Brian help me pull up the 3-day unexcused, and I asked the elementary principals last week to give me the kindergarten and first grade kids, which some was alarming, but then some, when we were talking, didn't seem to be real accurate, so it maybe needed to be cleaned up a little bit. But as you can see, you know, we have a lot of kiddos that would already be, you know, targeted by this code. So part of that is, you know, like, we probably are gonna have to determine, you know, a hierarchy of who we're going to assist first and figure out, you know, some plan of attack there. Just some other enrollment stuff. The first day, we had 1,854 students enrolled. We had 462 enroll after the first day. 47 have transferred to another district, 7 came in from out of state, and 75 have moved from one in-district school to another, so we still have a lot of, you know, inter-district transfers. 96 students have transferred out to another district. The second page is, we've been talking about the accreditation review that's coming up in January. And, these are just some of the bullet points that we have.
Just really quick, that 9th grade number is really high.
There is
a lot.
close to 200
So,
naysayers.
so I was wondering, like, that's 75-80% of our freshmen are already truant. But is that, so that's including the outline schools, right?
Yeah,
Or-
this is district-wide. Right.
Or do we
You
have?
don't
No, we
have
don't
it.
have,
Just
we just
here.
have here.
We have a
Sure.
really large freshman class,
Yeah.
it's right at 200 this year. So, the staff have really been focusing on getting kids here, like they said, you know, you can't deal with truancy if they're not enrolled. So they've worked really hard on making sure everyone's here and following up. And then I'm kind of the pest, and I'm asking principals, you know, about kindergarten and first grade, because I want them to get into good habits, and I really feel that they'll enjoy school if we get them here, so.
Because I was
most of
just wondering if that's kind of like we were talking about not really having that smooth transition from 8th grade to high school, if that kind of plays into that.
I think it does. They only do, what, 1 or 2 trips over there? And they need a lot more activities so they get a feel for what's going on. Maybe let them visit the clubs or something. 'Cause they
And
have a lot
just
of
moving
other
from the middle
activities.
school to the high school is a lot less structured environment, so they're kind of, you know.
Let them go eat in the dining hall. There's a lot of things that they can do about that transition so the kids feel more comfortable.
I did request the transition, that was the only one I did not get, after the last board meeting, I requested from the counselors here's their plans. I received the elementary and I received the high school one, but I hadn't received the middle school one, so I asked for that again just today.
You might wanna look at the high school and see how much they're doing.
Sunny had a nice list, I mean, I can share that with you, she's busy with them right away, she was, meeting with all the kids, so,
That's a huge transition from.
yeah,
It is, and usually if our kids are gonna drop out, except
That's
for
what happens.
yeah.
And then they can kind of figure out, oh, well, it's less structured at the high school, so I can wander off in the morning before the bell rings and maybe not make it back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just kind of, I don't know.
yeah.
I wonder if there's any way to have, like you have a big brother, big sister kind of
Like a mentoring.
kind of program or something like that where we could implement. Cause that is kind of busy, that is kind of frightening to move to a new school and a new routine and.
That's a good idea, then you kind of pair them up with somebody that's at the high
Maybe
school
when they're
already.
transitioning, they could do with sophomores and
Yeah,
juniors.
I think they pair them up when they do go to visit with kids that they know are kids that, like Oak Creek kids that are coming in, they'll pair them up with a kid that came from Oak Creek.
T-Dog.
Yeah.
Did we do the reverse?
We did.
Oh, maybe.
Somebody have a phone number?
I do, but my phone's in my office, so I'll keep it for her.
Should we come back here shortly?
Okay.
So that was it,
Okay.
and then, like, they had talked about breaking down that attendance by school, that way we can identify.
I didn't this time because I did last time, so I just was kind of like giving you different views
Yeah.
and, like I said, with the truancy code changing, this is just kind of a like,
Just so we
definitely
can
gonna
see if
be
there's-
overwhelming,
There's
so.
trends, it's like,
Right.
it's second grade in one school and
Right.
fifth grade in another school kind of thing.
The next biggest one is the 10th grade class, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they drop off, so. Okay.
Who's collecting all this documentation for the accreditation?
Well, on our snow day, I got a really good start. So, I'm trying to coordinate most of it. Some of it's automatic with the, PRF that we have to do for the state, for the staff. That one, Rick, I believe, signed off Friday, correct? But some of the other ones, I'm just slowly collecting the data. Some will be pulled off Infinite Campus, but a lot of it's, just, I'm gonna be bugging principals for information. Like, where do you store student records? Has to be a fireproof safe, so send me some pictures and, I'll put them all up there together. And school improvement plans, those are our Title I plans that we're gonna put up. High school gave me personal learning plans today, they're supposed to have them for all their kids, so, just trying to check them off one at a time. I've got another, folder started, binder, so I know what I've sent, and I'm, putting the date and time I sent, upload them, so. Nothing you wanna wait till the last minute to do, I can guarantee you that. So, trying to chunk it off right away here, so.
No way do you wait.
Oh, yeah, some of it's been very interesting. So luckily, like number 15, the safety plans and emergency drills, there were 4 or 5 of us that went up to Pier in May last year, so we kind of knew some of the things. So I already emailed Kevin in May about getting the fire drills ready. And then these safety plans are a whole nother thing, because they're pretty thick plans. So then we're gonna have to upload those and figure out how we're gonna do some of that. But, the bowling policy, I'm just getting the policy out and getting a copy and uploading it, so. It's just busy work for a lot of it.
January's right around the corner.
It is, it's
Yeah.
going fast, so.
Meetings. reschedule.
I got some sex, but I forgot.
Reschedule that district.
Oh, make her better.
Text me, Deb, I don't have my calendar.
Do we wanna do it soon?
It'd be nice if we could do it soon so we can finally have a definition of spirituality, and then each committee can start working on their objectives.
So
Yeah.
probably, I wouldn't do it on the week of the last weekend. How about the weekend of the 21st?
That'll
It's
work.
next week.
That'll next
Yeah.
week, yeah, that'll work for me.
Yeah.
On the 21st?
This, on Mondays, Mondays.
Monday's good for me.
10 o'clock.
I probably can't do next week, but
Won't be able to do it during the day.
It has to be
it has to be
with the
done. It's
administrative.
with the
I'll
administrative.
make it then.
I just need to know ahead of time, so.
Cause I have to take leave, Sebastian's got his follow-up on the 22nd. Get this, gotten this cast,
Maybe
so.
decide I'll try to get on that one, so.
You think the 24th would be better than the 21st?
Is it in the evening?
During the day,
Wednesday?
like
I
at 9.
teach Thursday. I teach from 12:30 to 3:30. If it's in the morning, I'll come.
We could do it from 9 to 12.
Yeah.
On the 24th?
Yes, on Thursday. Have, lunch or?
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else?
I'd like to talk about calling school off when the weather's bad. We got slammed again on Facebook. Tim, what, since you did that for years, what was the protocol for canceling school or starting late?
Usually it's at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had my contacts at, first call went to the PD for road conditions. I would call Donnie Lloyd, he was already out. He would tell me what the north and south roads were like. I had Clayton Wright at St. Francis would call coming from the east, and I'd handle the west. That's how we did it, we just coordinated. And they would ask me, what do you think? And if it was icy like it was this time, I recommended that we get out early. Got lucky this time with that wind and that ice. We didn't have no buses going on the road.
It was bad, it was really, really bad.
That's how I did it. Just went to them and did Carol, I called you a few times, called Chad a few times. He was acting. It's up to them, but that's what I was the recommendation. Now, it's, the first thing I think about is the temperature, those kids being out there. And the second one is the road conditions.
A lot of those kids walk to the bus stops.
And, I took it serious enough where I just made my recommendation. I got into a lot of fights with the principal, this Chad knows.
It's a hard decision to make, but it's something that we have to really think about seriously. 1 hour late start, I think, is not gonna work.
That's tough.
How can you get the buildings cleared, the streets and sidewalks cleared in just that little bit of time?
Even a 2 hour late start is a pain, because people, parents can't tell time. They can't. And when you say, you put it out there, well, we're starting 90 minutes late, we'll call the rush hour, constant. What time is that? You know, it's,
I think the biggest confusion is what time do I need to pick the bus up? You know what time the school is gonna start?
And on road conditions, there's
So-
no way you can pinpoint
Oh,
that.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, I mean, that's why you're getting all the phone calls. is
Yeah.
What time do I
And
have my kid
usually,
to
I
the bus
mean,
stop?
the all-call person should clarify that on the all-call, you know, so that means you report, staff report. at
Yeah, yeah,
whatever
it needs to be
time.
clear with that too.
But I think it worked out best that way, you're just gonna have, your new guy's gonna have to be out there.
He was out there, like, he was communicating with me at 5:30, so I'm telling you, the roads were slick, and we were called by 6, so
And that was the
nobody
second
was
day,
on
the
the
first day
road.
it was kind of
So,
bad too.
No, you need to take into consideration, I mean, cause I've been there, done that, the weather on the west end
it's so
can
different.
be totally
Totally
different.
different.
I mean, it changes
Almost
at
a
the,
given.
yep.
The little
on
white
the
river makes a
river.
big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's, I mean, I've been in the ditches
But I
many
think
times,
it's-
coming and going,
Yeah.
and going months, and it was.
The tribe sits down and waits for Todd County to make the decision, so.
Yeah, so I think other schools do too.
I think SG does.
And I
too.
think we should follow suit. If one school closes, then I think we should follow suit, you know, White River, us and St. Francis, and Sapu, they didn't have school both days. But, you know, we were getting some nasty comments.
Other than the 1 hour, I think 2 hours probably would have been more sufficient, but I really didn't have any problem with the wait. I mean, she did the late start and then reassessed in the morning and then decided to close, you know, and I thought,
And one reason for
That
the
was-
1 hour, because we've had 3 meetings on this now, I'm taking it very seriously, it's not, this is one of my biggest, like,
It's something that's hard to do.
right,
It
and
is.
it's a no-win most of the time, because like you said, on one side, it's this weather condition, and the other side, it's usually, it's hardly ever the same unless it's a full-blown blizzard. But the 1 hour late, kids get breakfast, 2 hour late, they don't.
They
So
can
that
still
was the
get
other
breakfast.
consideration.
I mean,
They
could
still
be
get other
in-
stuff to eat there.
But not,
We always did like a light breakfast,
Yeah,
a
we did
bar
too.
and juice or something like that.
We always had
Not
juice
a
and
full
supper.
breakfast
yeah.
with, you know, with 2 hour, but, I mean, and I agree with you, it was not fun. I mean, everybody thinks that board chair has all this power, and I said, I don't have any power unless the other 4 are sitting beside me.
Yeah.
And then I said, but
It's a hard situation, but I think we need to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for the safety of our kids and our staff. Our staff travel a lot too.
Yeah, you got your cooks and your janitors out there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Carol's knows what that's like, being on the road 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And you gotta let them know ahead of time if they're gonna be a late start.
And we coordinated with, you know, with the state, they said they're on the roads at 5:30, so, I mean, we've talked to all of the people that you have. I don't have all the numbers for the other schools yet, I'll see
A great school.
Mr. Cameron tomorrow.
Great
so.
school to call is Kadoka. That's what I
Kadoka?
used a lot, because that weather comes from that area.
Yeah.
Well, I know Stacy at Martin, but they don't have school on Fridays, neither does White River, so.
Yeah.
Kadoka was a great source, get in contact with them.
So I don't think the high school is de-iced, the sidewalks and stuff. My granddaughter brought me a snap and said, look at this, and there was a pregnant student trying to get into the building, slipping and sliding, and that would have been a lawsuit for sure, I think.
A lot of
if
the
something
times, why we
happened.
recommended a 90-minute start was to give the state time to get those roads salted.
Mhm.
That's why we went with usually 90 minutes, not 2 hours, but 90 minutes.
Yeah, so just something to, before the next storm comes, there shouldn't be many.
Cause you got buses going out west on that Rosebud Hills are terrible, so you get
Yeah.
over, George is a good contact for that, George Grew.
They were showing pictures of people on that hill in Rosebud trying to get out. So it was just a nasty, icy storm.
And the 90 minutes also gave your maintenance staff time to try to get out there before they got on their bus runs to get some of those stop signs salted, sanded. Those were the reasons why we went 90.
Okay. And we kept it real simple on the all-call and on the, as to not confuse people. Staff should know by now.
You
But
would
if
think.
they're half an hour after, that hasn't changed for a couple of years now, so.
Well, yeah, but you have to, never probably have experiences.
But they should know now, I mean, it's,
It gives
once you know, I mean, once the first time, cause
Yeah.
believe me, Thursday, they were trying to find out for Friday already, so.
And that gives you time too to watch the weather that's coming.
Yeah.
Don't believe me, I was up watching letters.
Oh, yeah. I had to too.
Yeah, this, are you going to do what this?
okay, with that.
Or both of them?
Is that the elementary basketball?
No, that's
The student that got hurt.
Let me see. I think so.
You didn't have to have an interview with KSFY.
I do conference call, so I'm gonna have to go.
Oh, yeah, this one was taken care of. And then, did you get another one about elementary basketball?
Yeah.
Yeah, they both did. Yeah, I went over and talked to these guys, and then, I was emailing with Pat. He actually has made a little, like guide. And next year, we're gonna work on a handbook for elementary athletics, so it's like high school, middle school, so we don't run into these situations.
What about Sage's letter?
There's three questions on that. Maybe I should call them and see, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean, there's three questions. I was gonna say that would be something to talk about at the leadership, but I think we need to address it.
Before then?
Yep.
You wanna do an evening meeting?
Try to sit down and come up with a response.
We could.
Well, that meeting's on the 24th, could we do it on Monday or Tuesday in the evening?
Sure.
Will that, Shelley, will that work for you Monday evening?
Yeah, it's just Tuesday that I have to go to Rapid, so.
Monday evening?
Next Monday?
Special meeting or work session?
I would say special meeting.
You might have to make some decisions, so.
Okay.
Say next Monday.
5:30? 5?
5:30.
I gotta get my tank time to get over here, so.
I know I'll have my supper. Can we have supper? Do you know anybody?
When?
21st.
21st.
Tuesdays are on
Monday.
Yes.
What are you fixing, maybe we'll show up?
No.
And a soup and, salad and drama.
Just thinking about it.
Right.
Just thinking what my schedule is.
Do you have anything for us? I was just gonna say that because I was at a school thing, court thing, and I seen, there's this son, Jared. He wanted to know when we were going to go down there and do, not necessarily a walk, but just go through and
We want to do a grand opening. I think that'll be handled, yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and then, but he said as a family, he would just like to know because they would like to be there. So that's what he was asking.
Tiana will help coordinate that, she wants to do it kind of with the family night.
Yeah, and just so she lets them know, that's all he asked.
Aren't we working with Chris too?
I drafted the plaque and gave it to Chris the other night in Leonard, and he was taking it to the family.
So we're still working on it.
You done with the walkthrough though?
No, still haven't yet, no.
Wow. You got a lot to fix yet?
No, actually, it's not a lot to fix at this point.
What time is it? There's not anything else?
7:19.
I'm not sure I understand.
And it's on camera?
Of course.
7:20?
You're at 7:20.
What time do you want food then?
On 5:30 on Monday, and,
Noon on the 24th?
you're on the 24th? 11:30?
11:30?